Hello, Jamie from Inky and Scrappy, sharing with you today another card in my Lawn Fawn's Happy Harvest card series featuring that Happy Harvest stamp set, You're My Pumpkin. So for this one, I'm pulling back in that embossing powder that I fell in love with in one of my last videos, or in this card series, I guess. This one was actually recorded sometime during the peak of harvest season, so I'm only getting to editing and voicing over now, so I'm sorry if I'm a little rusty on this one. So I went in with that yellow ochre embossing powder that I had used in the previous one in the series. I just it inspired this background actually. And so to me it just looks like that corn, like harvest ready corn or dried down corn stalks. So that's what I did with it. And so I just stamped multiple rows on my white cardstock here. This is Nina Classic Crest Solar White Super Smooth. I love blending on this stuff. So I went in with a second row just right over top of my first row. Now, this embossing powder is either really old or it's a matte finished, and it kind of has a texture to it. And I didn't want it to buff off when I went in with my Distress Oxides. I didn't want that embossing powder on my blending tools, and B, I wanted to keep it on the card. So to do that, I just went and heat set a layer of clear embossing powder over the top by rewarming or reheating the embossing powder. It melts it, and if you're fast enough, you can go in with that super fine clear embossing powder and put that over the top and then heat set it again so it has that shiny gloss to the top of it. It's a lot like how you would use your embossing, like the ultra thick embossing enamel. It's the same principle. Warm or melted embossing powder will stick non-melted embossing powder to it, and then you can heat set it in there. I hope that makes sense. So for my Distress Oxides, I started with that Speckled Egg. I'm going in with some faded jeans and then topping that off with some chipped Sapphire on the top. It maybe was a little bit darker blend than I had planned on going because it was technically supposed to be a daytime scene. Or maybe, I don't know. I was just in a deep dark blue mood. I love blues, so that's just where it was at. I went for the ground. I went in with a ground espresso. Wow, I'm rusty on my colors today. So on the ground, I went with ground espresso. Can't talk today either. And then I will just buff off what is sitting on top of my trees there. After I had kind of spritzed it with a little bit of water. No, I don't think I spritzed it with water. I cleaned off my desk, and then I just went, because it was lightly moist towel, and then I could just buff off the top without affecting the Distress Oxides. And then, of course, I needed splatter. So I took the dried on mica water pigments from Brutus Monroe that were still on my block, because yes, crafting during harvest time really doesn't happen a whole lot, or at least not in one fell swoop. So I tend to use whatever's on my desk in the area, and I do bits and pieces here and there where I can squeeze in 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, and I ended up missing all of the coloring on this one. I thought I had it, because I wanted to show you how I did the green and the lines. I do have one with apples that I did the same technique, so you'll see it. It's just not going to be in this one. So I'm going to trim down that panel to give myself a nice border on that A2 sized card using some of that pattern paper from the Carta Bella Fresh from the Farm or something like that cardstock. I don't know. It's the paper pack that I've been using. If you are following me to figure out what to buy, I'm sorry. I've got nothing for you because I can't remember what I have. it's been a week. So I cut apart that pumpkin row from the Simply Celebrate Fall stamp set from Fawn because I wanted my pumpkins to extend across the whole front of my card. So by coloring the whole row and then cutting it in half, because my wagon was going to be covering up that half anyway, it gives me a little more bang for my buck, and I didn't have to color 2 rows of pumpkins. So I will do a double adhesive on, or double foam on my wagon, because I want my wagon to be higher up than I wanted my pumpkins. So my pumpkins are raised, but my wagon's even raised higher. And then I just kind of snuck in some extra foam adhesive where the wagon overlaps the pumpkins. And then I had to figure out a sentiment. So this one I knew I wanted to do a larger sentiment with the wagon down below, and that was kind of because I liked the background, but you know, I had some area to cover up there. Did I end up covering up more of that beautiful background than I had planned? Yes. Was I okay with it in the end? Totally. I love how it turned out. So I'm lining up my letters here, and you wouldn't have to do this, you could just haphazardly, but if I'm going to take the time to line them up and put them on a piece of paper, I'm going to create a bonus card with it. And because time is valuable, that's what I was planning on doing. Plus, I wanted to cut them out multiple times because I was planning on stacking them to give that extra depth in there. I think I ended up stacking 3 layers. So I did 2 white layers and then my orange one on top. I still have that orange gingham pumpkin cut out. I just thought it was too busy for the background that I was working on. So, it is what it is. And yes, I own 2 Oliver Stitch alphabet die sets. If you have an alphabet die set that you absolutely love and you find yourself using it a lot and you use words with multiple letters in it, to me it just makes sense to have 2 sets because I do multiple cuts a lot and time is always very short. So I pulled out the pumpkin Build-A-House die set, and I'm using that pumpkin vine, or all of the pumpkin vines from that one. So there's the little leafy pumpkin pieces for some additional interest on my sentiment here. I am also pulling in MFT's clear stamp set. It's their Halloween, I think it's Spooktacular or Sassy Pants Spooktacular set. And I'm just using the You're My Boo, but I'm not actually using the boo part. I just wanted that You're Mine. And I'm going to stamp it both on this dark green cardstock and set it in white. And then I'm also going to stamp it on a white cardstock in black. And I'm using a cheap Cricut mat. I think Corinne Wiskman maybe led me to them at some point in time. I have a bunch of them cut to size for my Misty and my stamp plant form. They work for holding those little pieces that you want to stamp on, but you know, don't have room to put the magnet on. It works wonders when I remember to use it. So I lined up my word pumpkin, and then I'm going to take all of my vines here and I'm going to add them to the back of my letters. I'm doing it from the back side. It's just going to be faster and easier, and I can kind of figure out where it's going to lay on the card in the long run. So it helps get those leaves back behind some of those letters that I probably wouldn't have if I would have done it from the front side. You can do it either way. I just figured it was probably going to be simpler for me to get it to go this way than I was going to be able to do it the other way. And so I kind of had a theory and a theme behind it. What it is now, I can't exactly remember, but so my vines kind of came out of each letter a little bit, was kind of my go-to. And I went from there. I will end up doing some fill-in once I have this flipped over and on my actual card. And using that washi tape trick just helps make it go a whole lot faster. It would have gone way faster if I would have let it all dry before I pulled the washi up, but you know, patience. I haven't. So trying to figure out my sentiment here, and I think I like the white better. It just pops. It kind of blends, it pulls in that white from that orange gingham, and it pulls in the white that's around the colored objects. And so I do end up going with the white one. And I will just pop that up on a piece of double-sided fun foam. I'll pop that on, and then I'm going to go in with my leftover little vines and tuck them in and around the bottom parts of the word pumpkin. I will also use some of my cutoffs as well. We are done with harvest, so hopefully my videos that I record will actually get edited and voiced over within a reasonable time frame and not 2.5, 3 weeks later, so I can remember what I was actually doing when I did it. I do have a couple that are way further out, like back from August, and I'll think about editing those and getting those up. They're just, you know, a little farther out there that I forgot they were sitting there. Otherwise, we are happy to be done with all fall field work. For the most part, I think it's done. The guys are just finishing up stuff that needed to get done before winter sets in, I guess. Trying to catch up on everything around here that kind of got abandoned when field work happened. It's happens every year. So I went in with that sparkle pen from Spectrum Noir and glittered all of the things, and that is my finished card. And then I did bring in that Simply Fall Sentiment set and then added my 2 extra pumpkins to the inside to finish up the inside, and that was my bonus card. See? It turned out cute. Simple, but cute. I hope you have a great day. Thanks for joining me.